Welcome to the Road to Redemption podcast with your host, Cam Williamson. Each week, Cam sets out to shatter the labels and stigmas associated with mental health awareness by giving life lessons and raw overviews of events happening around the world.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I'm, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson. It's great to be back with you. I'm gonna be honest up front. There's a good chance your boy's gonna cry today. The last couple days have been the worst couple days of my life. Somebody very close to me, without giving personal information, somebody very close to me had an episode yesterday during a therapy session. Started breaking into like almost a seizing type episode, and then ended up kind of raging out on paramedics while in the ER. Once they settled down, got some questions, got some answers. Some of those are still being figured out currently in a hospital. So the last couple days have been very, very tough. Very tough. And today we're not going to talk about an easy subject. It's complicated fathers, complicated relationships with fathers. What happens if you grew up with a complicated relationship with your father, or if you are currently in a situation where you have kids with someone and the relationship with the father is complicated, or you are that father and your relationship with your kids is complicated. Sorry if I repeated myself. I want to start by saying, as I always try to do, which is I don't say any of these things about my upbringing or the way any of you grew up as judgmental. They're only observations, right? So let's start with mine. My father, it was Father's Day on Sunday, right? As someone who did not have a conversation with his father on Father's Day because we don't currently speak, and that's not new for us, right? And this is why I'm having this episode, because Father's Day was Sunday, and I know that sticky, nasty feeling of like just shittiness after a holiday where it brings up bad feelings kind of lingers for a few days. So my father and my mother divorced when I was 2, and my dad worked a lot. He lived in Philly for a while, Chicago. He kind of bounced around all over for business. He would pick us up on random weekends to take us to Dave & Buster's and stuff, and then, take us back to our moms. It wasn't until we were a little older, 10, 11, 12, that he, tried to get custody of me, mainly. I have an older sister. And he was still working a lot, and the judge said, well, man, if you even want to see these kids at all, you got to live in their school district, right? So at 12, 13, my dad came big into the scene, and he lived right around the corner from us, and I went over there on Wednesday nights, and then me and my sister went over there on every other weekend. Now that didn't always happen, right? We bailed sometimes, or he had shit to do, or he was traveling, whatever. So it wasn't a very stable thing. Now let's talk about who my pops is as a person. He's still alive. My dad is an old school Italian dude, right? So his family is Sicilian. My uncles, my dad, and he has 2 brothers. They're all very stereotypical Midwest Italian dudes. They think that they're from New York and Jersey, and they all had, myself included, a chain on at all times, whether it was showing or not. The gelled hair was perfectly greased back. My dad, and I've said this quite a few times, if I was having a baseball game when I was a little kid, like a t-ball game, my dad would show up in a 3-piece suit, very finely, it was insane, for no reason. He could have gone home and changed. It was only on a weekend that you would see my dad, and he would wear the same pair of blue sweatpants every weekend, to the point where, by the time I was living with him when I was, 17, the bitches were see-through. He wore the same blue sweatpants and the same Ohio State hat every weekend. The only thing that changed is the t-shirt. It was fucking crazy. So my dad, again, I think my dad genuinely believed that he was working as hard as he was to try to have a relationship with us. And then I think when it came time to having a relationship with us, and I'm only saying this in the hindsight of having kids and going through situations like what I'm going through now, is when you're with your kids, it's your job as a parent to make sure that your kids don't know any of your problems. None of them. None. So, like, you have to just yesterday, right before I went and picked my daughter up, I literally, like, had to turn on a Wu-Tang song, get myself in this mode and go, let's fucking go. Like, all right, let's go. Hi. Hey, how was your day? You know, and you have to be able to, like, do that. Well, my pops wasn't raised on feelings. Like, he was raised by a Sicilian father that wasn't around and was a degenerate gambler and, you know, like, did some wild shit, like burned his legs off in jail and shit. It was wild. Like, my dad had a wild upbringing. So to even, like, and, like, my dad wasn't a big one that would pick up the phone and call. So, like I said, when, like, we didn't talk on Father's Day, we got in an argument a few months ago, so we just don't talk. But, like, it's not uncommon that he didn't call on Christmas or whatever because he was just doing other shit. The other shit was usually dating women. So, like, my dad was a big ladies man. He worked for a medical company where he, like, invented technologies and would sell those technologies to hospitals and shit. So he made decent money, and he was always dressed very nice, and his thing was, like, every night he would go to the same steakhouse, order a Coors Light and a steak, and then at some point he would meet a woman. And, like, sometimes they would date, sometimes it was just a lady he met down there occasionally, but he was in, like, 3 serious relationships my whole life that I know of, right? But he was always, like, a very overtly romantic guy when it came to relationships. So my dad, still to this day, is probably the best cook I know. My dad taught me so much about cooking, how to, like, again, we're talking Sicilian, like, family upbringing. So my dad taught me from a very young age, like, when you make dinner, you set a plate, you put a napkin down, you put small fork, big fork, spoon, knife, you know, everything. This is why this is on the left. It was very, like, this is how you treat a lady. Now, he did not know how to emotionally regulate himself and treat a woman in that way, but as far as romance and wine and dine goes, he was a fucking gem. So I learned all these very, like, suave things from my father. Like, I was wearing, it's not great cologne, but I was wearing a Zorro Chrome since I was, like, 10, which is like an $80 cologne. Now I wear Dior Sauvage, and that's like $110. So it's like I've learned that my dad wasn't the classiest of classy like he thought he was, but he tried. My dad always tried to keep things very classy. Like, when you walked into his townhomes, even though his first one was in the hood, my dad it was kind of the hood now. It was getting rough when he lived there, but it was, like, immaculate. He had the whole place renovated. He had white fucking carpet, dummy, white carpets. He, like, had marble painted walls. My family was the family. His mother had a white room, which is an all white room. If you don't know what this is, traditional Italian families do. You have a room that everything in it is white: carpet, rugs, pillows, couch. Everything is white. It's where the white Christmas tree went every year. And you were not allowed to go in there. Ever. You were never allowed to go in there unless you were opening presents on Christmas. It's fucking insane. So, again, everything was about appearances, right? Like, and my uncles drove, like, big Chevy Tahoes because we couldn't afford Cadillacs. And my uncle's wife was a real estate agent, and when she got a Mercedes, that was like, holy shit. They inherited her parents' house, which was a damn near mansion. So they were, like, upper tier. My uncle was a fucking Hall of Fame coach, like, all across the state of Ohio. Incredible. That was one of my dad's brothers. His other brother, not so much. It's a bad story. So anyway, my pops was very much the advice giver. My dad loves to give advice. The problem is it's not backed up by fact, and a lot of time it's not backed up by actually observations that he's had. He's just saying things to say them. So my dad was burned, in his perspective, by women his whole life. His whole life he was fucked over by women. So a lot of his advice to me was, you know, don't waste your fucking time. Women ain't loyal. They're going to shit on you. They're going to lie. They're going to, you know, they're annoying as fuck. That was the general tone. And anytime he spoke about my mother, it was fucking terrible. Now, when I got older, he was very adamant. Like, you don't talk crazy about your mom. Don't say shit like that about your mom. But, like, when they were going through it, because remember, they were still fighting for custody when I was like 12 to 15. I told the story of when I found a whole package of phone calls that my mom had recorded between the two of them, and it was just them fucking firing like hell at each other. And it was wild as fuck, yo. But again, if you've ever been a person in the midst of a custody battle and you think that you're about to never see your fucking kids again, look at Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. Myself included. Yo, I say crazy shit if you fuck with my kids. So I get it. Even though it's my mother, right? Like, I get it. I get the dynamic of it. So my pops was a very intense fucking dude, man. Like, my dad expected a lot of things that he never told you about. So, like, my dad expected you to be like him. I grew up on the west side of Columbus, Ohio. I skateboarded. I like rap music, and I didn't have a dad around. So when he came around, he wanted me to, like, wear button-up shirts, polo shirts, khaki pants, like, to school, yo. I go to public high school on the west side of Columbus. I'm going to get my fucking ass beat because of you. So we had a drawer or a cabinet in his house that was called the band clothes drawer. And anytime I would come over wearing clothes from my mom's, he would take those, put them in this thing, and I would never be allowed to get them again. Usually I would just steal them Sunday night when I was going back to my mom's. And I had to wear, like, my dad's clothes when I was around my dad. So it was fucking weird, man, because, like, I would be dating girls or I would have friends, and on the weekends we would meet up in the little apartment complex thing he lived in, and he'd be like, yo, what the fuck are you wearing, guy? And I'm like, it's my fucking pops, yo. Like, he fucking hates me. He hates the way I dress. He hates everything that I'm doing. You know, it's just, he fucking hates me. So it was one of those situations. Sorry, guys, I am going to have to keep an eye on my phone because of what's going on. So if I have to pause the episode, I will let you guys know that. My pops had a temper from hell. My pops had no patience for childhood antics, right? So my dad's big comparison, in my opinion, was his brother, Chuck. Chuck he ultimately had 3 sons, all of them fantastic quarterbacks. And then my dad, but my Uncle Chuck was actively in my cousin's life every single day, literally trained them to be NFL quarterbacks from the time they could walk. It was fucking crazy. They had their scuffles, but again, my uncle was a dad that was there, lived with them every day. My dad was not that. So I didn't learn how to, like, throw a spiral. I learned from my uncle, who was the coach of the community, like, football team, and my dad would show up to the games on Saturdays if I was playing ball. Sometimes. And it was one of those things where, like, I was always coached by my uncles, and I played, like, backup quarterback to my cousin. And it was always that thing where I was always the second under in the family. And my dad, I think, felt like because I was not all that, and I wasn't shit academically, and my uncle made damn sure that his kids were A and B students, honor roll kids, because they got scholarships and stuff. They had the guidance of a very tough father. Their father, my Uncle Chuck, same way. He's a very Sicilian. He drinks all the time. I don't know if he still does, but I mean, you would have never seen my uncle without chugging Coors Lights. He'd be beet red, laughing. He's always the epitome of a good time. Every room he's in it's a Chuck show, right? It's everything. He's gonna tell the story, bada bing, bada boy, hey, and it's a whole show when Chuck is around, and I love it. He's my favorite uncle probably on my dad's side. Well, he's one of 2, so it's not, whatever. He's a great guy. He's got his issues, but he's a great guy. So my pops, when it came time, when life started to really happen, right? My pops bailed hard again. So, like, when the issue happened and I got a girl pregnant, so I thought at 17, my pops only wanted to help me to be spiteful to the girl. And when I realized that he had no interest in me having a relationship with my son, but it was just more, how do we fuck this girl over? I kind of started to create distance on that one. And, like, he's never met most of his grandkids. Like, he's met the kid that I had when I was 17. He met him, like, twice. When I was married the first time and had a stepdaughter, he met her, like, once. And then he's met my oldest daughter never. And he's met my youngest daughter never. So it's one of those situations where I've learned to keep him at a distance as I got older, but that just recently happened, like, in the last year, because this is where the story really unfolds for all of us. When I was like 17, man, like when my heart was genuinely shattered for the first time and I told my pops, like, man, I'm fucking heartbroken. I was met, which a lot of you were, with like, yo, get over it. Fuck them. Fuck that bitch. Who cares? Fuck them. Go find someone else. Like, I legitimately, when my heart was broken, I remember, and I'm writing about this right now in the book that I'm writing, my dad called my cousin Vinny, that's really his name, my cousin Vinny, called him to bring me to a teenage club, which was a regular nightclub, like, all the time, but during the hours of like 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, it was like this weird teenage club. And he, like, called my cousin, who I didn't usually hang out with outside of like just seeing each other at family get-togethers, to take me to this club and go meet a girl, which I did, and it was a fucking nightmare. We ended up going. So like I danced with this girl, whatever. We kissed in the club. We ended up going, hey, where do you guys live? They lived in fucking Dublin, which is like the uppity area of Columbus. We follow them all the way to their house. They like play this weird fucking game of tag in the front yard, and then they all ran in the house and ditched us. And that was like it. The next morning, they're like, yeah, y'all can go fuck yourselves. It was the weirdest thing ever. It was weird. So that's how that went. The next day, I meet the girl that I ended up thinking I had a kid with. And that was how that progressed. But again, like my dad's stance on it all was like, just fuck that bitch. Just move on. Just move on. Don't worry about it. Like, they're going to fuck you over at all costs. Just detach yourself completely from it. And that was always kind of his advice. Fuck them, move on. And then it was weird because then he would just bail. So like when they would come back and like try to manipulate me to get back with him, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. And like my mom hated every woman I was with because, again, my mom wasn't like a traditional Italian family, but my mom grew up around that type of people. So my mom, you know, your mom's your number one lady kind of thing. So like your mom's never gonna like your girl. My mom never liked a single woman I was with until my current wife. Like, and you know, that's how that goes. And they haven't seen each other that much. And it's one of those situations where it's like, when you start to become this guy, your own guy, and you've had no guidance at all, you're just this walking fucking red flag. And like, I was the guy that every parent warned their kid about, because it was like, yo, you don't want to be friends with that kind of kid. His parents don't fucking, like, his dad's not around. He fucking drinks and smokes after school when his fucking mom's not home from work, and he sneaks people into the house and shit. Like, I was not someone, and again, I wasn't doing anything with ill intentions. I was just doing whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And anything I could get away with. That's just who I was to my core. And again, I didn't have anyone around to be like, where the fuck are you going? You know? So it's easier to do stuff like that. That's coming from the Latchkey episode that we just had, which thank you guys for the support on that. But then, you know, like when I got married the first time, like my dad wasn't around because he didn't even know anything about this lady. Like I had to join the military because my life had gone to shit and back, and he had just been like, dude, I don't know what to do with you. So my mom's like, fucking, you're going to the army, dude. I'm not letting you go to jail. So I went to the army, married this woman. He fucking hated everything about her from day one. Just hearing about her was like, she's a fucking bitch, dude. Just leave her. She's going to end up getting pregnant and tricking you into marrying her and all this stuff. And it was like, so I kind of counteracted that, where I was like, no, man, I fucking love her. I'm going to marry her. I'm going to take care of her kid. He's like, you're a fucking idiot. That kid's going to shit all over you. She's going to let it happen. Well, he was right on that one. And we ended up divorcing. But it was, again, like I never had support in dealing with like, hey, Pops, you know, my wife's really on my ass right now and I'm trying to do the best I can, but like, what should I do? There was nothing like, well, hey, man, you got to realize sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes, you know, you're talking out your ass and stuff like this. It was always like, no, man, you should be allowed to have a beer at the end of the day. And it was like, it wasn't always the best advice. It was usually like advice you would get from a buddy at a bar kind of shit. But then when you would fuck up, he had all the perfect advice. Like when I had my DUIs, he's like, you need to stop fucking drinking, dude. Yeah, like, come on, man. What are you doing? You're going to fuck your life up. And it's like, well, thanks, man. Thanks, dude. Remember, like, you thought it was funny when you caught me and my buddies drinking beer in my bedroom, and we had a whole cooler full of that. Was just funny. Like, I didn't get grounded for that. That was just kids being kids. So it's like, we can't act like I was raised with all this structure and this discipline, a lot of us, And then now at the age of like 30, we're just now unfucking ourselves going, what the hell? Like, I tell this story a lot, and I'm probably about to lose the camera at some point and I'll have to restart it. But like, I've had a full beard since I was 12. I've told that in quite a few episodes. But like, I didn't learn how to shave until I was in basic training. When you had to shave every single day, and you have to carry your cat card on you, your ID, and every day in formation they would go by and you had to rub your cat card against your face, and if you sounded like stubble was going across, they'd smoke your fucking balls off. Well, me, not knowing how to shave, I'm like dry shaving, had 2 seconds before I got to run down to formation, not knowing what I'm doing, and then I have a 5 o'clock shadow by fucking 8 in the morning. So I'm fucked every single time. And I remember I got my balls smoked off early into basic. And he goes, what? Your dad never fucking teach you how to shave? And I was like, actually, Joe Sargent, he didn't. He wasn't like around like that. And I don't know why I said that, but I was like, nah, he wasn't really around like that. But I just like kept pushing. And he was like, Private, get up, god damn it. And he's like, that's the saddest fucking thing I've ever heard. Come here. And he like took me upstairs, and like, then he got cool, and he was like, yo, man, you gotta know how to shave. Come on, man. And he like showed me. It was like this Puerto Rican drill sergeant just went from chewing my balls to being like, come on, man, I got you. Like, look, you got thick ass hair, and it goes different ways. So, and he like showed me how to do that. So again, a lot of us grow up and we get these like pivotal lessons from people who's not our parents. Like, I was disciplined by my grandfather more than my father. Now, when my father would discipline me, it was just an ass beating with a belt or his hand or whatever. When my grandfather would discipline you, he would try to make you do shit like chores and stuff like that. The difference was you would piss my grandfather off so much easier than you would piss my father off. My grandfather, if you walked in front of the TV, God damn it, and he's, something's coming at you or whatever. And then, like, if you were sitting next to him, he loved to have, like, his grandkids, like, in his arms. But when you start fidgeting and moving, he's like, yo, be still. And he'll tell you once. And after that, God damn it. And he's like, you're sitting there like, I thought we were snuggling. What the fuck? And so, again, everything was very explosive. Like, my dad, he couldn't talk. He exclaims everything. Everything is da-da, da-da-da, da-da, da-da. And he talks like an Italian drill sergeant almost, where it's like, I'll tell you what, man, this fucking Biden or this fucking Trump. And it's like, and he's like that. But then when I talk, and I'm like, man, I'll tell you what, this motherfucker. And he's like, yo, chill. Why are you yelling? I'm like, what are you talking about? Everybody yells all the time in our family. We've all just yelled. If you ever go to an Italian family's house on Christmas and everyone started saucing their shit up, everyone is screaming at each other. And they're standing this fucking close to each other because someone's touching someone and kissing somebody on the side of the face, eating off each other's plates and shit. Like, it was chaos all the time. Not to mention, my dad, I don't know how much my dad co-owned the bar, but my Uncle Chuck owned a bar right in the heart on West Broad Street of Columbus, Ohio, and it was called the Coach's Corner, and I'm pretty sure they were running some numbers out of the back of there. And, like, we watched, like, my uncle and my dad, like, fight motherfuckers in, like, that was one time in an alleyway, but, like, we watched my dad, like, bounce people out of bars and shit. And that's how my mom and dad met, was my dad was a DJ at a fucking bar, if you could imagine that. And I can't even imagine that. So, like, they owned, I think, or my dad and his other brother just worked at the bar all the time, but we were in this bar every weekend. So, like, every birthday party you had at the Coach's Corner, and they had, like, a kids' corner where you could play pinball and race cars and shit. It was awesome. There was a whole, like, it was awesome, man. It was great. So, and it was, like, 2 seconds away from everybody's house. We were there all the time after football practice, and that was, like, the best time I remember with my dad. Was when I was like 11 to like 13, I was really trying to be a good football player. I was really trying to crack down on basketball, baseball. Like, I was trying to wrestle. I was trying to be a guy that my dad would like. And it always would be like, ooh, female. Ooh, female. Ooh, female. And I would just, fucking ruin it all. But again, it was because I think I saw my mom and my dad not together. I never put it together like, oh, they're not together. I just always assumed, like, for whatever reason, y'all gave up and you made my life hard because of that. Now I gotta like go see all these people I hardly know, and I only hardly know them because y'all couldn't figure shit out. And every time I go over here, they trash my mom, and then I go over here and they trash my dad. And it's like, I love everybody, man. I don't want to do any of this shit. And then it puts you in a relationship where you're like, yo, I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue. I don't want to be at odds. I want your parents to love me, and I want my parents to love you, and I want this to be all about love. Fuck all this crazy shit, and wait till you meet my family. They're fucking crazy. And then you laugh about it in the car, and you build a life together off shit like that. But again, a lot of us, like 90s kids and recovering latchkey kids, a lot of us had to go to the military. A lot of us had to like do some time. A lot of us had to figure shit out by working really hard fucking jobs for a long time, and now we're finally telling our stories and trying to learn from them. And again, nothing that my parents did I think was ill-intended, but a lot of it left a lot of scars and a lot of behavioral issues that I'm still to this day unlearning. And I can tell you though, the benefit of being that way, of not having my father around a lot, and he'll say this, I had to learn to be resilient very young. So like when life happened to me, like when I got a girl pregnant, I thought, and then she left for a guy that I like was friends with in high school, and I thought I'd never see this kid again, and I really believed he was mine, and it's still kind of weird, and like my heart was shattered. And then I recently, right before that, my heart was truly broken by my first love. And then after that, it was like all these times I really fucking needed my dad. And anytime I had him, he just gave me bad advice. So then I just learned, well, like, don't ask him for advice anymore. Or sometimes I would just get so low, I had no choice. Like, Pops, I just got to tell you what's going on. And then you get the advice and you feel like shit because it's like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't deal with these people. Stop talking to her. Leave her alone. Quit fucking with her. Whatever. And you're like, yo, that's not what I fucking was. Come on, man. Like, and then he, you know, every time you get hurt, he goes, I fucking told you. That's what you get for trusting people. That's, and my dad don't trust anybody. No family, no friends. He might have like 2 friends that he trusts, and they're the same friends he's had his whole fucking life. And like, again, there is no talking about hard times. Like his best friend lost his wife recently, and like they didn't talk about it. They just like sat quietly together and drank beer. That's what dudes did back then. And it was crazy because I watched my dad hurt a lot from shit he never talked about. Like he would let little things out of the closet, like his relationship with his dad, or women that he truly loved and how they chose not to be with him because of the way he was. And he's like, man, I fucked up. And it would be these like quick little moments where I was like, there's a sincere heart in there that I connect to because I feel that way too, where like you could tell he was so broken by the way he was brought up that it made him very hard. And then he was trying his best to not let that seep into us. And I think a lot of the times he did that by keeping his distance, where he was like, I'm a fucking mess. And the fact that he drinks every night and like, you know, all these things that it was conducive to a bachelor lifestyle where he's making a lot of money and, you know, doing that kind of thing, but not so conducive to like being patient with a kid or understanding or trying to understand the way your kid learns compared to the way a school's trying to teach them so they can actually excel, or, you know, or giving a fuck about what your kids like, you know, like not trying to make your kids. And I said this in a funny reel that I posted on Father's Day, which is like, shout out to the dads that don't make their spouse or their kids' personalities just an extension of theirs. And it was like, my dad wanted me to play football and wrestle when I wanted to be in the jazz band and try out for plays. Like I legitimately got in trouble in middle school because I skipped wrestling practice that I was slotted to wrestle in a tournament that I had done very well recently. I was slotted to do good stuff coming up, and I just bailed on practice to go try out for the fucking grease play. And like I thought my dad was going to fucking murder me. But the girl that I was into, she was like hanging around the audition. I don't even think she was auditioning, but she was hanging around because she had a friend that was going to be in it. So I was like, fuck, bro, I'm going to go fucking wrestle these dudes? No, man. I'm going to go fucking do these couple lines, and then I'm going to hang out with my girl. Like, get the fuck out of here. It wasn't a question. So, again, I was a constant disappointment. I think a lot of 90s kids can relate to the fact that we were constant disappointments to our fathers, leading to when I got married, now I got divorced from my first wife, and she lives hundreds of miles away in another state, and I get her once a month for 2 days, 1 weekend a month. And like, it's hell. I talk to her. I try to call her. Well, I'm legally allowed to call Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but I try to call her as much as I can. And, her mom lets me talk to her if they're available. And we FaceTime all the time, and I try to get her on my time, but there's a lot of time I can't. Like, I physically can't afford to make that drive, or she's got a soccer game or a pool party or whatever the fuck is going on. So, like, if you think about it, in 12 months, if I get to see her 1 weekend a month, I get to see her 12 days a year. So every one that I miss, that's like missing almost a year. Because if you guys know a kid, I mean, my daughter's 6. If you know how they are, well, they grow every single day, and they change, and they evolve, and like, you won't know the same kid again that you had seen last month. And it's fucking hard, man, because I try to be the best father to her that I can, while acknowledging, like, I can't afford to be there for you the way that I should be. And that gives me empathy towards my father, right? Because I'm trying my best with what I have, right? With what my situation is, I'm doing the best I can, and she knows that I love her every single day. So that is already better than what I had, right? And then as far as, like, my daughters don't want for anything. Now, my youngest daughter lives with me every single day, and I'm in the trenches with her when she's sick. Like, right now, while we've got shit going on in our family, like, my number one priority is my daughter. So, like, sitting in a hospital, I can't do that, to just sit in a waiting room, because at, a certain time, I've got to go get my daughter, make sure that she feels as normal as possible, gets her dinner, whatever I can get her to fucking eat these days. And then, she's in bed at the time she's supposed to be in bed. And I've got to deflect all these questions of, like, where people are and what's going on and all this stuff. And it's like, hey, I'm trying my best, right? Like, I'm trying to be and like yesterday, while all the emergency shit was going on, I made sure that I called my daughter to be like, yo, I love you so much, because I was very aware of how vulnerable life is at that moment. And the first thing I always want to do is call the people I love and go, dude, I fucking love you. And it's always my kids. Unfortunately, my youngest is 3, and she's in daycare most of the day. So she lives in that perfect bubble of ignorance where, as adult shit is happening during the day, she has no idea. It was only, but this is a good segue to the end. The things I change with my kids is, like, I try really hard not to yell at my kids. That doesn't mean I don't yell at my kids, right? Let's be very clear about that. There is a time and place to raise your voice. It is, if you are raising your voice 90% of the time, or 40% of the time, or even 20% of the time, you're fucking wrong, right? I talk to my kids like they're people that I love, right? That's a base lesson that I've learned to take with my children. Talk to them like they're people that you love, not that they're people who are annoying you at all times. So even when they are annoying the fuck out of me, like this morning, my whole drive to take my daughter to daycare, I was getting fucking screamed at after the worst 2 days of my life because I couldn't turn the sun off and it was too bright. So what do? I turned on her fucking whatever song she likes, Surface Pressure, put it on, and she screamed at me the whole fucking way, ignoring the song. But I listened to the song and just keep driving. Why? I could yell at you. I could do all this. I could traumatize you and probably get myself in a tizzy and possibly crash the car. Why? I'm going to ruin my day over that, and then I'm going to have you traumatized and thinking that your dad hates you? Nah. I'm going to wait till you shut up, and then I'm going to go, hey, you understand that that's not kind to do that to me, right? Like, and I talked to my daughter this way, my 3-year-old. I told her yesterday, so your dad's had one of the worst days ever. And because of that, I'm a little sad today. So I would really appreciate if you could be kind and sweet today. Do you understand? And she said yes. And immediately following, she made it a game to see how fucked up and mean she could be for the rest of the night. And it was just, Dad, I want this. Dad, I want that. Dad, I want this. Dad, I want that. And dumb shit. Like, Dad, I want the string that's floating up in the sky. Dad, why can't you get it? And you're like, yo, you're bugging. And that's how I talk to my kids. Yo, you are bugging right now. Why are you screaming at me because a light bulb is out that's been out for 3 months, but now you need that light on? That's the type of shit you deal with as a parent. But like, if you're off, doing business, or like with me, I live in Tennessee and my oldest daughter, I wasn't there for those. I wasn't there for that. Her stepdad was, and her mom was. So it's like, and I live with that knowledge of I wasn't the one in the trenches, and I'm not. I'm hoping to fix that very soon, but I at some point, you learn as a father that you do what's best for your kids. I could fight egoically, like I think kind of my dad did when I was 12, 13, and I could do the same to my daughter and go, hey, I want to fight to ensure that I get halftime custody with you. But it's like, what am I uprooting from that? Because I remember so many times I wanted to do shit, but I couldn't because I had to go to my dad's. And then if I didn't go to my dad's, it fucking hurt his feelings, and I probably wouldn't see him for 6 months. He'd be like, oh, you don't even fucking like me, whatever. And I've told the story too. The one time I remember telling my dad I wanted to go home, I remember him driving me back home in his Beamer, and he looked, my dad drove a green Beamer for most of my life, turned around and goes, I fucking hate you. You're not my son. And like, I can still replay that memory as if it's happening now. And it's like, I remember those moments when my kid's bugging so hard, when I'm like, yeah, what you're talking about is so fucking dumb right now. Like, you don't even want to go home to your mom or something. I deal with that with my oldest. She says, I want my mommy, because she's comfortable with her mom. You know, regardless of my feelings of anything, she's comfortable with her mom. That's who she knows. So when that happens, I have to learn to go, you know, Taya Ray, I love you so much, and I miss you constantly, girl. You have no idea, but I get it. So if you want desperately to go home, I ask that you stay the night with me, give me a chance, and if in the morning you want to go home, I'll take you home. And I always play that balance. And like, I know her mom goes, he doesn't even keep her the whole time. He just gives her back early. And it's like, sure, I probably make a lot of bad mistakes, and I let my kids skip time with me because they want to go to a soccer game or a festival or whatever. But it's like, I would rather you be happy than just check a block and say you came to my house for me, so I can say I saw you. Like, my daughter's 6 now, my oldest, and I kind of believe she can make her own choices, right? You know who I am. You know I love you. You know I'm your father. You know you have a stepfather, you know you have a mother, and you know you got siblings over there, and you got a sister over here. I made choices in my life to disconnect massively from your mother because of how toxic that relationship was, and I did that for my oldest daughter. She may never see that, but more than likely, she would not even start to calculate that thought until she's 18 to 20 years old. And things start to happen to her, and life happens like it happens to us. And then you can look at your situation for what it is, not what your parents told you it was. And you go, this is who my dad really is. This is who my mom really is. And then you look and you go, oh, my dad's fucking crazy. He makes YouTube videos and he talks about mental health and he puts all this shit out there, all the stuff that my mom talks about. This fucking idiot tells it on his show. And it's like, you know, I never wanted to lie to my kids. I didn't know who my dad really was. There was more questions than answers, and he was kind of a mysterious guy. He didn't give you a whole lot. And I wanted to always be very open with my kids, including the kid I had when I was 17. He's reached out, and we've talked within the last year. And it was a hard conversation where I told him the God's the honest truth. Like, dog, they changed your name. I tried. This is what it was. And then I gave him the information because he's 11 years old now. He's probably 12 now in June. He's 12 now. And it was this thing where I had to talk to him like a man and go, brother, this is what happened. Real shit, this is what happened. You got to know I love you. You got to know that. I was there for you the first year of your life, and I loved you like my son, yo. Like, and that wasn't my choice to not see you. Same thing with my daughter where it's like, yo, okay, I left your mom. I left your mother. I have to own that. I got in a relationship I shouldn't have, and I let it go too far in multiple ways. Marriage, kids, whatever. That does not change the fact that I love you with every ounce of my being, and I want to be with you every second of my life. I understand you have a whole nother life, and you're going to live that, and you favor that. That breaks my heart, but selfishly. So then I have my youngest daughter who I can do things right. And I dedicate every moment of my day to making sure that in some way I'm doing something that would make her proud, or if not that, I'm taking care of myself in a necessary way so I can be there for her. And I can be there if my oldest daughter needs me. And I stay on social media very visibly so certain people can always find me and always reach out to me, right? I've learned you have to close certain doors. Like right now, the door between me and my father is closed. He doesn't know how to talk respectfully and treat me as if I'm a man who has built my own life on my own, right? But then you can learn that at any time, a door can be opened if someone is willing to open it and come correct, right? Be a mutual benefit to this relationship. When I speak, you listen. You consider my feelings. You consider who I am as a person, not who you think I should be. And like, I always hope to give that to any of my kids, right? You could call your dad who, makes YouTube videos and talks about everything and tell me anything. I put all my garbage online. So it's like, I'm not one to raise my kids to be like, what? You like punk rock and crazy fucking cut up t-shirts and you wear your hair backwards and you want to dye the frosted tips? Bro, I did all that shit. But if you think I'm dumb and you and your friends aren't smoking burners out in the back, if I catch you doing that, I'm going to fuck you up. And that's how I talk to my kids, because that's where you just be real with your kids. Why? My kids are going to turn on YouTube, see the way I really speak and go, Dad, what the fuck is this? Now, they would never. I'm having this conversation with my 3-year-old now because she repeats a lot of things. And I simply said, hey, yo, you know better than that, right? You know when Dad says that, it's what? It's kind of whatever, because you know you're not supposed to say that. So don't say that. And then guess what? She never said it again. It was one of the situations I hated the most when I was 17 and had the kid. They used to like get the kid to cuss and shit. And I'm like, that's not funny. There's nothing funny about it. That's trash. That's just, why are we doing that? And then you see now on TikTok, people throw pieces of cheese on their kid for fucking views. What are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? You're being a parent and you're making your kid a fucking, or what else do they do? I saw one the other day. I don't even know, man. Y'all do some crazy shit to your kids on TikTok. You need to chill, man. Like, CPS is still a fucking thing. It wasn't when we was a kid. They beat our asses with broomsticks and leather belts and shit. But now y'all are cheese slapping your fucking 2-month-old for some laughs or something. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? Anyway, life has changed. The days of a dad who doesn't live in the house, meaning he's a bad father, are way over, dude. There's plenty of people that are technically FaceTime dads that are there for their kids because they choose to be. And there's a lot of dads that live in the home with their kids that ignore the fuck out of them and treat them terribly and don't value them at all because they're in a shitty relationship with a woman that they fucking hate. And I can tell you, all the people that think you staying together for the kids is best for the kids, you're full of shit. You can take that back to the church group that told it to you, because you're full of shit. Watching two parents be toxic around each other. I watched my parents be toxic and they weren't even fucking together, and it sucked. You watch two people that genuinely don't fucking like each other have to be in the same house, yo, shit will get wild. Fuses get short, and as a parent, I can tell you, your kids will cut your fuses short. So you learn it's hard to be kind when you're not growing a kind environment around you, and that's what I always aim to do. The environment must always be kind. You will be kind. You could be mad, you could be sad, you could be upset, but you will be kind to everybody. There is no, like, this whole thing of, well, fuck you, I'm going to do me. No. In this family, we think about the greater good. Hey, you might be hurt by that. Can you see from their perspective why they might have done that and how it's not personal to you, but it feels personal to you? These are conversations we have. Hey, I know you love this person. Now, my kids are a little young, but I have these conversations with older kids in my life. Like, I've got cousins and shit. They'll reach out to me because I'm the mental health guy in the family. And that, I'm heartbroken, I'm this and I'm that. And I'm like, hey, man, yeah, you are. Your heart hurts right now. So if you have the ability to express yourself, right? Live within people's boundaries. Don't text people and email people if they don't want you to, but communicate yourself and communicate your feelings and say how you really feel. Give that person the chance to reciprocate that. Because just cutting people off and saying fuck all forever is the way that people end up heartbroken, depressed, anxious, behavior disorders, neglect, abandonment issues, and all these things that stem from all these minute moments in life that we just can't unfuck. We can if we talk about it. If you guys like what we're doing here, thumbs up the video, subscribe so you get notified. Go over Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find your audio podcast. Get subscribed. It's great. Audio's good too. Video is where it lives, on YouTube all the time. You guys are doing a lot of supporting over here, and I appreciate it. Check out the roadtoredemptionpodcast.com if you want to see any of the merch that your boy makes. That is madmentaldesigns.com. I love you, and I'll see you later this week, hopefully.